naturalism, and I'll be coming to this when we talk about Baroque, of course. But I would say that we have a very straightforward tradition of realism that is very northern because of its qualities of being like real life. You can imagine this is exactly how it must have looked at. All the peasants there, washed up, cleaned up, ready to celebrate this big event. But following or learning from the Italians' perspective, shading to create volume, and so on. And Bruegel has something about his own personal style, and that is this linear quality. We can see, I'm showing you two of his work because I think he's so important. This one here, it also has this linear quality. That linear, I mean, the form is outlined with a strong black line and filled in with color and shading. What is going on here? Well, I would say this is a nice example of the use of religion not for the purpose of religion, but to tell, to tell a story of everyday life. First of all, what is this about? It's called the parable of the blind. What is a parable? It is a short snippets told by Jesus about things about clever sayings, okay, or sayings of Jesus. That's what a parable is. Comparing things in real life with some kind of ideas of morality, justice, truth, and some common truths. The parable of the blind goes something like, when a blind man leads the blind, all of them will fall into the ditch. What does that mean? Well, it means two things. Literally, they're going to fall into the ditch, of course. But then it also means when someone is blind in the sense of not being able to see, not really see, but not being clever enough or wise enough, when someone does something that's not intelligent and others are following him, they're all going to get into trouble. So it has that kind of connotation, not literally blind, but blind in the sense of not being able to see with your mind, not with your eyes. Bruegel takes this, transposes it, and makes it into a real story about blind people. Now, in the Middle Ages and in the 16th century, which is doesn't change very much, basically, when you are blind, you are excommunicated from your village, from your house, from your home. You are left alone, basically. Families in the countryside, everyone works. Children work. Women, even pregnant women, work in the fields. Because there's no one who can afford not to work. Because every mouth counts. And this is, of course, a very harsh time of feudalism. You have to give, you have to pay the taxes, you have to pay your lord. Okay? So, in other words, when someone is born blind, that person is simply says, sorry, but we cannot feed you. So they take him over to a colony of blind people, and they get together, sharing the same fate, going from one place to another, begging for money. And it's a very cruel time. There are no social services, no hospitals, no insurance or anything like that. So this is something that you would really see if you went back into the 16th century, if you went back any time before modernity, any time before the 19th century, you will see something like this. Blind people getting together, holding each other, and walking from one village to another, begging for money. Sometimes they would play instruments, sometimes they would just beg, it doesn't matter. But they held together by their same fate. And this cruel fate is depicted, I think, in an extraordinary way in this painting that has a sense of bleakness. There's something, there's nothing bright here. There's no sunshine. There's nothing that really is in any way optimistic. But he's not a social critic. Please understand this. He's not criticizing society. Criticism of society does not happen until socialism, until the 19th century. You will not have an artist or an individual criticizing feudal system, for example, or society for not taking care of it. You can have people feeling for them, such as Bruegel, or being very cold about it, and saying, look, this is what's happening. And I would say he's somewhere in between. You see these faces extraordinarily realistically depicted in terms of how they look at the moment, the gesture, the looking up, the movements, but also their physiognomy. Okay? And the bleakness which is something that sort of, the whole impression, the image without light, without sunlight, without any colors, stronger colors, without any optimistic colors, conveys to us, together with the subject, this sense of lacking optimism. And maybe, if you want to understand this as critique, maybe, but otherwise, no.